This week is Parshas Chukas, and it deals with Meriva. It's the incident where Moshe strikes the rock, and the rock gives forth its water after the Bnei Yisrael have complained that they haven't had any water. They quarrel with Moshe, and Hakadosh Baruch Hu says that because you did not instill faith in them, and because you did not sanctify me, you will not go into the land of Israel. And the decree is extended to Aaron as well. It continues, though, that nevertheless God was sanctified with that incident. Later on in the Chumash in Vayeschanan, Hakadosh Moshe says that he pleaded with God to be permitted to go into the land of Israel, and he was refused lama'anchem, because of you. So it's the hint is that it wasn't really a sin on Moshe's part, and this is not a punishment so much for a sin. Rashi, among other commentaries, brings Psalm 106, 32, 33, okay, that they provoked him at Meriva, and bad was done to him, or Moshe became changed to being bad. And it said Gihimru Rucho, because the word Himru can mean either they embittered his spirit or they changed his spirit. Moshe changed as a result of that. He became bitter. And you can see that the tone of Moshe's words, his attitude, is different from now on. He is no longer as optimist and as kindly inclined towards the Bnei Yisrael as he has been in the past. To understand the situation, it helps to compare it with an earlier situation similar in Bishalach, where again the Bnei Yisrael complain that they have no water, and Moshe strikes the rock and it gives forth its water. In the later case, he's asked to speak to the rock, but bring his stick. The rock is a symbol for the Bnei Yisrael, just like Moshe hit the rock the first time. It's, so to speak, he's going to hit you. In the second case, he's meant only to threaten them, but just talk to them about it. Okay? And what you see in the comparing the two passages, in the first passage, it says that the Bnei Yisrael put God on trial. They're saying, well, are we going to accept him as God or as not? Is he going? Are we going to be agree to be his nation or not? Well, we have to think about this. Okay. In the case of Chukas, they are pleased with the idea of being the nation of Hashem, and they're pleased with the idea of going into the Holy Land. However, they are extremely vituperative and quarrelsome and hysterical in both situations. Perhaps the second one they have improved a little bit in that respect, and as a result, they should be given more mild treatment. nevertheless, you see Moshe behaving as hysterical and as vituperative as they are. So, how are we to understand this? And what you have is, shall we say, metaphysics, as well as the idea that being a leader involves considerable work and aggravation. Therefore, many people are not so quick to be leaders and are willing to resign their posts when they see they are no longer effective, or that it's really not worth the bother. In addition to that, we see that Moshe's perception of the land of Israel is the Temple Mount in the Beis Midrash, Beis Hamikdash, in its perfection. However, when you read Parshas Balak in Bilam's prophecy, what is his prophecy? I see him, but not near. He sees the Messianic era, but it's not now and it's not soon. It's going to take many years, and there are going to be calamities and suffering in the meantime. To a certain extent, that's what's foreshadowed by the death of Miriam, and it's also included in the Gezerah against Moshe, where Aaron is not permitted to go into Israel. Okay, he basically did not do anything. If you're going to say there was a sin was committed by hitting the rock, he didn't hit the rock. He wasn't commanded to do it in any case. What you have to shed light on these ideas is a story in the Talmud about Rav Chisda, who comes upon the house of a great tzaddik. He goes into detail about why he was a great tzaddik, and his house is in ruins. He's very upset. And his friend Ula, in explaining this situation, says that since the destruction of the temple, there has been a decree that the houses of the righteous should also be in ruins. And Rabbi Chisda is not quite pleased with that answer. And so Ula continues, should the house of the student be better than the house of the rabbi? In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the greatest tzaddik. His house is in ruins. Is it appropriate for the house of a lesser tzaddik of flesh and blood to be very beautiful? And what you see in this, what's alluded to this, is that that Moshe Rabbeinu is behaving according to the perception of Torah in their hearts and minds. They perceive Torah as being hysterical and quarrelsome. That's why they behave that way towards Moshe, because he is the personification of Moshe. And in the end, what happens is Moshe behaves the way that they're expecting him to behave. You have a similar story in the Gemara about Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, who was considered a genius, a wellspring that overpowers. And after the destruction of the second temple, he goes to the Galil, to a very nice place. He sets up a yeshiva, and nobody comes. Instead, they all go to Yavda. You'd expect that a few at least would come to him, but no one comes, zero. Okay. And he considers going to Yavda, and his wife says, who's more important to the other, you to them or them to you? He says, I'm much more important to them than they are to me. So she says, should a barrel of wine or a loaf of bread go to the rats? So with that, he stays, and gradually he forgets all of his Torah to the extent that when he's called to learn the Torah on Rosh Chodesh, that he misreads it. Instead of saying this month is to you, he says this cherish was their heart. In other words, he mistakes a number of letters that are somewhat similar in appearance. But the idea that is being hinted is what the genius turned illiterate is the hearts of the Jewish people. Their heart is an illiterate, their heart is a deaf mute. So the person who had all this lofty knowledge, in the end, conforms to their expectations. There are different ways that we learn things and different ways that Torah is learned. In the best way to learn it is by having good teachers who set good examples. However, a person who blatantly violates the Torah in a horrible way also teaches Torah. Why? Because when we see how horrible this person is behaving and how horrible this violation is, we say we don't want to be that way. We want to be the opposite. As a result, what happens is the person winds up keeping the precept properly. He does the opposite of what the bad example is. The difficulty with that sort of approach is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants the Jewish people to be taught by people who are wise and benevolent, and that they should learn to be obedient and follow good examples. And when it happens that where they destroy a particular teacher, so they're always reacting to him negatively, it's time for the teacher to be replaced. So as a result, what you have is Yoshua ben Nun starting with pretty much a clean slate, taking over Moshe and heading on to the path that will be the conquest and settlement of Israel, and that ultimately will end with a day of universal peace.